now. So so recently I learned of a tradition, a custom, an ancient custom of going to the mikveh before the high holy season, the high holidays, before Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur. And so I took some women last year, and I myself went, and I haven't been for that, you know, with that intention or for that reason ever before. And I found it really amazing, really, really meaningful. And so I'm offering it again. Obviously it's COVID and people are a little bit, you know, it's a whole different world that we're in. But I want to go back, and I researched a little bit more in depth about mikveh. Like I grew up with a certain, as probably you all have, a certain impression of what mikveh is and how it's used and so on. And so I actually want to take us to the beginning. The word mikveh is means in Hebrew to gather the waters. And the first source of gathering, that word mikveh in the Torah, is in Genesis. It's actually in the very beginning of Genesis, where what exists in the world is water. Before there's anything else, there's water. And then there's God creates light. But on the second day, God separates between the waters, which were beneath the firmament, and the waters which were above the firmament. So he separates the waters, and he called the upper firmament heaven, and there was evening, morning, a second day. So on the third day, I'm going to read this, the waters beneath the heaven gathered. Let the waters beneath the heaven be gathered. This word gather, right? It's verse, whatever it is, 8 in Genesis. It teaches us that what God did is he gathered the water, and it's gathering of the waters. And this is the first source of gathering of the waters. And if you think about it, the water that exists today is the same water that existed, that has always existed. It's the same water. Like there's no new water being created. It's the cycle of water, etc. We all know. But you know, even to just kind of like imagine that connection to the water in the world today is the same water that took us back when the world was created, and when God separated the waters and created land, he gathered the waters. And so this gathering of water is what's the word I'm looking for, that we coined the word mikveh. The mikveh is the gathering of waters. So really that's what the word means, is mikveh, is to gather. So that's the first source of water. So I want to also keep in the Genesis theme, and stop me anywhere if you have questions. So in the Genesis theme, as we know, Adam and Eve, they were created on day 6. They ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they were banished from the garden. And it says in our mystical teachings, in our midrash, that Adam and Eve sat in the waters. They sat in a river that emanated from Gan Eden, from the Garden of Eden. And they sat in these waters, and they did teshuvah. Like they were like, at that point, it was too late. Obviously, you know, God says to Adam, where are you? And he says, you know, she told me to do it. And we get into this whole cycle of denial. But at some point, according to the Medrash, Adam and Eve sit in this water, a water as a source of purification. Again, whatever that means, you know, it's not a cleanliness issue. It's a spiritual cleansing. So that's the beginning of the references in the Torah. The next time it comes up is in the book of Leviticus, where it comes up pertaining to entry into the tabernacle. Aaron, you know, the Kohen and his sons all before Aaron, all of us at Mount Sinai, when we're about to receive the Torah, we have to prepare. There's 3 days of preparation before the Torah is given to God, to Moses, to us. And there's a preparation. That preparation includes water, includes purification in water, immersion in water. So it says in the expansion of the Torah, it's not literally in the Torah, that the Jewish people all immersed in water. And it would have been the well of Miriam, right? It would have been her well, is where the water came from when we were in the desert. So there's that immersion right there, back there. And then after the sin of the golden calf, we have the tabernacle, and later on in Jerusalem, the temple. And anytime anybody wanted to go into the temple, there was a ritual immersion that had to occur. And so if you go to Israel, you're certainly in Jerusalem, there are mikveh everywhere, under buildings, in buildings, you know, there's mikvehs everywhere. And it was something that people did in order to transform themselves from one state of being to another. And that's exactly what a mikveh is. A mikveh is a body of water that's gathered of mayim chayim. It's living waters. It has to be water that comes from the rain, or comes from snow, or comes from the lake or the river. It has to be natural water. It can't be a swimming pool. It has to have a connection to living waters, meaning waters that are living, like not in a swimming pool or in a bathtub or in a jacuzzi, right? So it would be again, like what I said, rainwater, oceans, rivers, streams, lakes, anything that is natural body of water is the water. And so the mikveh, most mikvehs around the world are regular tap water with an infusion of water that comes from rain. Usually it's a rainwater. So the mikvehs are made such that rainwater is channeled and then comes down and comes up through the bottom, through a hole actually at the bottom of the mikveh mixes with, so there's rainwater there. And obviously our mikvehs are clean and they're chlorinated and they're warm and they're really lovely. But there is this idea of water being a way in which we can be transformed from one state of being to another, as exemplified by Adam at the beginning, and then later by all the Jewish people standing at Sinai, and then the Kohen in the temple, and then now it's used in many, many, many different ways. Here we are, 2020. It's used in many different ways. Traditionally, I'm sure you're aware, it's used for women who are married, and after their menstrual cycle, they wait 7 days, and then they would immerse in a mikveh to resume marital relations. So that's probably one of the most frequently known uses for a mikveh today. And it takes you from a state, I'm not going to use the English words because there isn't a good translation, but it takes you from a place that's called tameh to tahor. So again, it's in order to be able to go into the temple, you had to be tahor. Again, we translated, and I don't like the translation because it feels dirty and it's like ritually impure, but it's a transformation. If we just hold on to the thought of it, it's transforming the status of a person. And back then in the temple, it was men and women would be transformed from a state of tameh to a state of tahorness, and then they could enter into the temple. But it's kind of morphed in our society to feel like, they think that women are dirty. Yes, yeah.
So do men traditionally also go? I think I've heard maybe that men go before Shabbos or before certain holidays.
Yeah, right. So that's true, they do. But it's not a mitzvah. It's not a commandment. It's not something that men they don't make a blessing over it. So things that we're commanded to do, we make a blessing over. Asher Kedishanu Mitzvah, who has commanded me to go into the mikveh, to immerse. So that you would say the men, when they go, they don't. But and again, with this, what some of us are doing here now, next week, Sunday, going to the mikveh, there's no blessing that we're going to say that I am commanded to do this dunk, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to have intentions, and I can say what I want, and I can pray what I want, and I can be transformed. I can really feel like I'm going from the past to the future, like how you're going to use it, how you're going to have an intention of what this experience is going to be for you. It's not one that is a mitzvah, but it helps us in our frame of mind and can use it as a tool for our own growth. Yes, Ellen.
Yes, so when you were describing the imagery of Adam and Eve sitting in the water after the tree of knowledge debacle, and they, I'm wondering, and it was for Teshuvah, right? So I'm wondering how that might relate to Tashlich.
Oh, Tashlich.
The idea of using a running body of water to dispel your sins or whatever, however you want to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, going to the mikveh before Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashana is really a custom. It's symbolic. So it sounds like very much similar. The thing with the tashlich is that it has to be a body of water that has fish in it or something living in it.
Oh.
So I don't know. It's very. I'll think about it some more and come back to you. But I think that it's very synonymous. I think they're very similar kinds of things that we're doing, which is like trying to shed things that we don't want to be part of us and move into a different reality. So we are trying to do that. And Yom Kippur actually is, in some of the commentators, called a mikveh. The day is considered a mikveh. Why? Because we change. we have the capacity really to be new people, to go from an old to a new, to shed off the parts of us that we don't want, and rebirth ourselves, rejuvenate ourselves, refresh ourselves, reset button ourselves. And so the day itself is considered to be a mikveh, which is interesting because in the Talmud, when it talks about a kosher meaning doing the immersion properly, it means there has to be no separation between your body and the water, right? So to prepare for mikveh, where it's used as a mitzvah is, like I said, for married women who want to resume, or the couple wants to resume marital relations, so they have to go to the mikveh, and that's in the Torah. Conversion is another time, obviously, which it's commonly used. Pre-Yom Kippur is another time. I read also like when a woman is nearing the end of her pregnancy and about to give birth there, and before marriage, right? A lot of times women go before their wedding day, like to prepare, like to shift themselves. And the last time, which isn't so well known, but is after a person dies. So the Chevra Kadisha take the body of the deceased, and they take it through a mikveh. So we do that here in Rhode Island. We wash the body in a way that simulates a mikveh experience for the body. But in order to prepare the body in any of those cases, we're trying to go back to our pristine. We're going back to our, like almost like our baby, like, your birth suit, your essential self with nothing attached, no makeup, no jewelry, no, whatever, Band-Aids, I'm on the Chevra Kadisha, so if there are people coming with tubes or stitches or whatever, we take everything off, we take everything out, everything comes out, because we want our bodies to be as natural and as back to the day we were born as it was back then. So we're taking anything that separates us from the water, we have to remove, so that the mikveh experience is touching our whole body. Like we immerse our whole body. There are very few mitzvahs where our whole body is involved, like going to a sukkah, your whole body goes in, right? Living in the land of Israel, your whole body's in it. And mikveh, your whole body's in it. You have to be able to immerse completely. The whole body has to be able to go in, and you have to lift your feet off the ground and tuck down and almost like go into this fetal position. And if you think about it, what you're doing when you go into the water is you hold your breath. You hold your breath and you go in, and it's water. It's go back to that imagery of the primordial water of creation. You're going into that same body of water, and it's warm, and it's like a mother's womb. It's like you're going back into the amniotic fluid of the womb. And then you hold it, and you think, and you go back to who you are essentially. Who is my essential self? Come out. And then you take a breath. Like this is your first breath. This is your new breath of your new beginning. Like it's very powerful if you really like think about it, what you're doing. It's not just that you're going swimming. Like I was swimming today, and I'm thinking like, this is nothing like a mikveh, but I'm going in and coming out and going in and swimming. But this is very intentional. Like you are, like the waters are natural. The waters are really like those primordial waters. You're going in like a fetus. You curl up like a fetus, and you come up and you take a breath like the fetus does when it's born. So you can find lots of hints to the rebirth of self. So I wanted to talk about how a mikveh is built. So a mikveh is built, it has to be in the ground, and it has to be a certain size. So it has to be a certain size so that you can go in and your whole body can be immersed in it. And so the rabbis came up with the amount of water that would qualify to make a mikveh suitable to be used, to make it kosher. It has to have at least 200 gallons. But the biblical, the post-biblical, when the Talmud was written, the measurement that they used for the mikveh was a se'ah, which is about, 40 se'ah is 200 gallons. So 40. Now here's where 40 comes in. And we talk a lot about numbers, how important numbers are, 10 utterances that God created the world, the 10 commandments, the 10 plagues, you know, there's like, and they're all linked together, right? So where's 40? So 40 is always used when we're talking about a rebirth or a regrowth, right? So 40 days of the Moses up on Mount Sinai coming down with the tablet. So he's like starting again. He's bringing down the Torah for the people. 40 days, 40 nights. The ark of the washing, the flood that encompassed the whole world, that was 40 days and 40 nights, right? 40 weeks of gestation of a baby, probably not exactly 40, but the idea is 40. Here we have 40 sa'ah. I'm sure there are other 40s that I'm not thinking of right now. But the idea that here we are, we're going into a body of water that has 40 sa'ah in it. So again, it's another hinting to this, actually, you know, this sort of intention that we have of rebirthing ourselves. So what we're doing is we're transitioning. We're transitioning from a non-Jew to a Jew, goes into the mikveh, from life to death, from marriage to, and people are now using the mikveh. There are more pluralistic mikvahs that are not being necessarily run by Orthodox people, but they are running mikvahs where people come, where they want to mark their transitions, like divorce or being cured from cancer, like they're in remission, they want to go, they want to mark that. And I believe really, and there's so many others like bat mitzvahs and menopause, and women go after menopause just to kind of make that transition. And so I think that it's really adds an extra level of taste to our religious lives, right? Because in a way, you know, it's easy to say, you know, well, that's not commanded to do, so you can't do that. But I think sometimes the value of doing things that aren't necessarily commanded is that they make our spiritual lives so much richer. They make us feel connected. And even if it's, you know, it's not commanded, but if it helps us feel the presence of God, or it makes us help us feel that we're entering into the new year new. Like, how do I do that otherwise? And we're not going to shul necessarily this year, synagogue. We're not going to be praying with a community. Maybe we're not going to hear the shofar in the same way. We're not going to have that uplifting sense of community. So we need, I think this year particularly, we need more tools to help us get into this idea that we're recreating ourselves, and that Rosh Hashana is considered the beginning of the creation of man. That was the 6th day. Rosh Hashana is the 6th day of the creation. So 6 days before Rosh Hashana is when the world was begun, like day 1. 6 days later, as Adam and Eve are created. And so Rosh Hashana is the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve. Therefore, for Rosh Hashana, for us, is a rebirth. It's the day where we stand there and we say, okay, who am I on the inside? And I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but the essential self, according to all of the Torah commentaries, the essential self of who we are is our soul. That's who we are. We have a body, which is a bit like our space suit, which allows us to go into outer space so we don't get zapped up. So what allows us to live in this world is our body, which is like our space suit. And it's housing our soul, and it's carrying our soul through the world. But our soul is a breath of God. Neshama is the breath of God. So we have a concept in the mystical teachings that God is always recreating us, is blowing our souls into us all the time. We're getting reborn, we're getting reblown into, we're connected to the source. And over the course of our lives, we kind of like block the windows of that soul, of being able to touch our souls, get blocked by our lives, by things that happen to us. And Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, that whole journey all the way through now, what we're doing is trying to like clean the window so we can access our soul. And I think going to the mikveh is another tool in that process of us saying, okay, I'm going back to my essential self. I'm going back to who I am. Who am I? I'm my soul. I'm my soul. And I get in touch with that. Yes, Ellen.
Well, this may be an odd question, but I'm prompted to ask it because of the idea that you're getting closer to your soul, and some of your exterior protection is being removed, per se, spiritually and physically also. Are there any superstitions that may surround the idea that when you're in the mikveh, you have to be careful that something could happen to your soul that would be untoward, like concerning that you have to protect your soul through blessing or other things because you're basically exposing yourself. I think this is an extreme question. I understand that, but it's the idea of you're becoming so close to your core when you do this, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I really wish that we actually do that. It's an attempt at that. And I mean, certainly in the Kabbalistic teachings, there are teachings of rabbis who got so transcendent that they went mad. They went mad, or they died, or they you know, it was just too much to peel back the layers, to really literally peel back all those layers and really connect to the higher transcendent realms, the oneness of God. I don't think that we're able to do it. I wish that we could, and in which case we'd have to be careful, but I don't think that we have the capacity, certainly not. And okay. I don't. I mean, there have been holy people over the course of history who have been able to do that, but I don't think we're on that level.
Oh, no. I wasn't putting myself there. It was
I'd love to be on that level. I think that would be awesome.
I don't know. I think I'd be a little. I'm not sure I could handle it, so I'd have to be really prepared for that.
That's right. We would. So let me see if there was more that I wanted to speak about. Oh yeah, so what's also interesting is that the way the mikvahs are made, as I mentioned, they have to have a certain capacity of water, they have to have a certain amount of water in them, but they also traditionally have 7 steps that lead down into the water. So if you've ever been to a mikvah that's not one that's, you know, in a field in Israel somewhere. My son finds mikvahs in the middle of nowhere and jumps in them, but built mikvahs, and it's really truly amazing. I don't know if you've been to Masada, but there's mikvahs there. There's mikvahs at the temple. There's mikvahs in the houses around the temple. There's just mikvahs everywhere. They have 7 steps going down, and this idea of 7. So what's 7? 7 again is the full cycle of creation. Full cycle of creation. So when you get into the water, you've reached that sort of end point, the Shabbat, the 7th. You're in that zone. And what's super interesting is that when I mentioned before about Genesis, in the beginning of Genesis, where God separates the upper waters and the lower waters. So there's mystically, the upper waters are considered to have male energy, not masculine, but male energy, which is energy of potential and full expression. Like it's like biologically it would be like the infusion of potential, and the female energy is the lower waters, which is more of what in general women biologically do, which is capture the potential and take it in and house it and bring it to fruition, bring it to reality, bring it out into something. So the biological is the sperm and the egg grows inside the woman, and the woman births that. So there's that kind of male and female separation that goes on. And so I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Hold on. I was just reading this as Joni was coming on. So the Torah wisdom explains that the upper waters represent the masculine energy and the lower waters are the feminine energy. And the mystery and magic of mikveh, these two opposed dynamics can become gathered and unified as one. So we're going into these waters, I guess they're considered to be both of those, and we're accessing that. So I don't actually quite know what that means in our intentions, but I think there's a lot of powerful spiritual stuff around a mikveh. And like you say, Ellen, I don't think we're going to be able to tap into all of it, but I think even just to have in our minds this idea of going into fetal position and coming out and being born again. And then traditionally people dunk 3 times. So they go down and they'll have their intentions, but really for people who are doing it as a mitzvah, where they're going to make a bracha, blessing on it, Sephardi do the blessing before, but Ashkenazi do the blessing after the immersion. But the actual transformation doesn't happen when you're in the water. The transformation happens when you come out, right? So you're not Jewish if you're going for conversion. You're not converted until you come out of the water. Not that you could stay in the water, but but that's an idea that it's the immersion. The coming out is where the potential, where the transformation occurs, where that shifting happens, where that change occurs. The status changes when you come out of the water. So you're going in, you're holding your breath, you're thinking about all those things you want to get rid of for the new year. You're thinking about all the things maybe you want to be. And it's interesting because we have 3 dunks as a traditional dunk. Some people do a lot more, but 3 is the traditional. And so you know, we do 3 dunks, come out, and then you would make the blessing, which is that you're commanded to do the tefillah. You're making the blessing that you are commanded to do the immersion. If you're doing it in order to resume marital relations after your period, or if you're doing it as a conversion, or if you're doing it, those are the ways in which you could make a blessing. Otherwise, it's more kind of fluid. Some people say the Shema. Some people in this Yom Kippur kind of intention, pre-Yom Kippur, they'll go in. So the first dunk is the things in the past I don't want. I want to erase those things. I want to move my root system. I want my root system. I want to know what it is that I really want, and I want to connect to that. I want to connect to my essential self, my soul, my desires, what I really, really, really want. That my ratzon is my, like, right there. That's maybe the first dunk. The second dunk is, who am I now? Like, who am I right in this moment? And then the third dunk is, who I don't want to be in the future, right? And I heard it done even with COVID, where people have done 3 dunks for a COVID intentionality, where they go in the first time is like, oh, the world I used to live in, what that world used to look like, how I used to go here and do that and hug this person and kiss this person and all the things that we used to do. That's your first dunk. And your second dunk is the life I'm living now, where I'm on Zoom and I can't be around people. And then the third dunk is what the re-emergence out of COVID is going to look like. What is that? Like the hope, like mikveh, the root of the word mikveh is also tikva, hope, the hope for the future, right? So we have in here also, it's not just I'm doing it right now, but there's a future orientation to it. Like, where am I going to be in the future? When I do this Yom Kippur, this pre-Yom Kippur immersion, I'm going to come out. Maybe I'll use my third immersion as a way to visualize what I hope for the future. Yes, Ellen. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Yeah. For some reason, you are muted.
Mute. Okay.
There you go.
So is it okay that I'm asking questions?
Of course. It's only 4 of us. It's awesome.
I don't know Hebrew. So I'm wondering if the root of, you use the word immersion. And so to immerse yourself in water is a very physical thing. However, is it the same root to immerse yourself in an idea or immerse yourself in a presence? Because in English it's the same word, but it's not
the same word. It's not the same word. But like I said, it is used immersion in the mikveh of Yom Kippur, right? So we have an immersion in time, we have an immersion in place, we have an immersion in, well, we have in the mikveh, you're immersed in the mikveh. What's the time, place, and everything else?
An idea.
Say it again.
To immerse yourself in an idea,
or an idea.
In thinking about the change that you are anticipating.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard it there. It's possible, I just don't know. I do think, though, as you're making me think, that the word for prayer and the word for immersion are very, very similar, right? So tefillah and tefillah tefillah, they're very similar. So maybe there's also a sense of immersion in a prayer, maybe letting yourself go, maybe becoming subsumed by something bigger than you. I don't know. I haven't heard it used that way, but it doesn't mean that it can't be. And I like that, because I think it is about fully bringing your full self into something, right? So you're not leaving something behind, especially in this period that we're going into, Rosh Hashana, Yom Kippur, kind of like the 10 days, and the Elul journey towards that is about bringing our whole selves. And again, 2 pieces of it. One is, who am I, and what do I want to be? And then what's getting in the way, right? So which of my branches and my twigs are like in the wrong place, and I want to like prune that down because I want my root to be what's going to project forward into the future. And hopefully I won't grow any more stray twigs that go off in the wrong directions. And I'll be more aligned, I'll be more straight, I'll be more whole. But I like the idea of the wholesomeness of immersion into something. But I haven't heard it with an idea. But that's good. It's good though. I mean, it's all good. You know, it all works. But the mikveh has a power. There's a power in the mikveh that certainly through our Jewish history, through our tradition, is there whether you intend it or not. Right? There's a power to the mikveh. Right? So it's considered a chok. There are different categories of mitzvah observance, and one of the categories is called a chok, and a chok is a chok is a category of observances where there is absolutely no reason given for why you do it, but that you do it because you're commanded. You do it because you have faith that it has some potential to do something for you, to you. It's the same thing with kosher. Kosher, keeping kosher is considered a chok. We don't really know why we keep kosher. There's no particularly good reason why we keep kosher, why this animal, not that animal, why this fish and not that fish. Like, we don't really know, but it's in the Torah, so it's a chok. And probably ultimately everything is a chok. Everything, we don't actually have really any idea why we do anything, but we do have a belief that, or that we have things that make us feel good. Like, it feels good to give tzedakah. It feels good to invite people into your home. It feels good to go visit the sick. It feels good to, these things, like, they feel good. And so that's on some level reward. Like, I do it because it makes me feel good, or I do it because it connects me to something bigger than myself. Like, we come up with our reasons. And so too with mikveh. I think we come up with our own way of understanding what it means to me. Yes, I'm doing it because I'm commanded, but I'm also gaining something from it. It tastes sweet to me. There's something really lovely about going into these waters. They're warm and they're fresh and they're primordial, and they linked back to the Garden of Eden, and they're linked back to thousands of years of Jewish women's practice. Thousands of years. So where we are today with mikveh being very much associated with women post-menstruation, it's on some level, because that seems to be the primary reason why people go to the mikveh, it's getting a bit of a bad rap. Mikveh gets a bit of a bad rap because people think it's all about what, and the fact is, you can't go into the mikveh dirty. Like I said, you have to take all your jewelry off and all your appendages and all your false teeth and all your hearing aids and all your rings and all your nail polish and everything. You take everything off. There's nothing between you, and you have to scrub yourself. Like, really, mama, you have to scrub yourself. You have to be so clean. So it's not about cleanliness, actually, but it's co-opted. It's not fair. So there are a lot of mikvahs around the country, one of which is in Boston called Maim Chaim, which is a pluralistic mikvah, and people go there for all sorts of things. Like I said, they go there after divorce, they go there after they transition something, anything, got a new job, had a baby, adopted a baby, after rape, after domestic abuse, after whatever. Like, people are using it for many, many, many different transitions. And, it's possible you could say, well, that's not commanded and you shouldn't go. Or you could say, this enhances my life. This gives me meaning. This makes me feel connected. This makes me feel spiritual. Like, what could be wrong with that, However, the mikveh does have powers, and we don't know what they are, but there are powers there. There's no question. And it's used in ways to transition people and to change the status of from one way in the world to another way in the world. So let's use it. Let's reclaim it, right? So I want to reclaim it certainly for going pre-Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur. That's for sure. That's for sure. Because I think it's such a beautiful custom, and it's really lovely. So if you want to come, Ellen, you're invited to come.
I'm going to look at the email again, that I think it's 12 to 2 on Sunday by the JCC, something.
Yeah. You have to be in touch with me to make an appointment, because it's an appointment. I have a number of women already signed up, so I have to, and I can't have more than 2 women. I can only have 1 woman at a time.
Okay.
Right. And then I want to talk to you, like, do you want to go on your own? Do you want me to come with you? Like, we'll have a conversation about it, how that would play out. But you have access to the mikveh at that time. I've booked it for that time. Traditionally, women who are going resuming marital relations after menstruation, they go at night.
Wow.
So we don't have access to the mikveh at night. And men, there are a number of men in the town who go in the morning. Before the morning services, not just before Shabbat or on Shabbat, but they go, a lot of the Hasidic people like the Lubavitch, they tend to go every day. They go, like I said, before Shabbat and on Shabbat morning. So it's a very well-used mikveh. And the other use of mikveh actually is, and perhaps you haven't heard of this, but if you buy utensils, cooking utensils, kitchen utensils, mostly glass and metal. In order to make them kosher, you have to take them to the mikveh, and they go through a mikveh. So if you can't get the key for the mikveh, you can go down to the Seekonk River, but that works. Or if you have a really big snowstorm, you can use the snow outside and toivel your dishes in the snow mikveh. Hello, Ruthie.
Hey there. I was
right, you just missed my whole presentation.
my other Zoom just ended. It was supposed to end at 8 o'clock.
I'm sure these other ladies don't want to hear it all over again.
I'll talk to you privately.
Yeah, we'll have a chat. So I think that's really what I wanted to give over. I think that that's my offer, is that in order to give an opportunity to local women to use the mikveh. And I think that Joni's in North Carolina, so she asked somebody locally if she could get to go to the mikveh over there. I think it's really a lovely, very meaningful, very lovely way to start the new year, to add to our repertoire of things that we do, as well as going and throwing bread into the Seekonk River, as well as, hearing the shofar and going, it's interesting, the word shofar also, again, these words very similar. So it's very similar to the membranes of the amniotic sac. Again, a lot of hints back to pre-birth, to pregnancy, to rebirth, and the shofar is the same root as the amniotic fluid, meaning that the sound that comes from the shofar is a sound pre-birth. It's no words, right? We don't have words yet. We're going deep down. We're using the breath, as I mentioned before, the neshama. It comes from the root neshima, which means breath. So God is breathing into us. So our breath that animates us is coming from God, and then we push it back out by blowing the shofar. And we have these amazing sounds, the cry and the sobbing, and these different ways in which we can understand what the sounds, how they resonate deep within our souls, and to get in touch with that. So many different tools in our toolbox for accessing a intention of rebirth at this time. And mikveh is just one of them. So shofar is one of them. Yeah, go ahead, Joni.
I've been thinking since the Torah yoga class, actually, about how our neshama interacts, and I'm not sure if this is the right word, but I think you'll get where I'm going, with intuition. So it's like, it does our neshama inform our intuition and maybe also helps kind of reduce the Yetzer Hara, or unrelated, or
no, it's not unrelated at all. So my understanding, again, very limited understanding, but my understanding is that if you go back in utero, these stories, these midrashim, these the mystical teachings that talk about our soul before birth is taught all of Torah. I don't know if you've heard that one. So you're this baby in utero, and everything's provided for you. You have everything you need: food, water, a cushy environment. You're not wanting for anything, and there's an angel that teaches you all of Torah. And when you're born, bam, it goes in. So it goes in. still there, still in us. So then we have these epiphanies, or we have these intuitions, or we have this capacity sometimes to shed away, sometimes like get rid of your rational mind.
Mm-hmm.
Rational mind could be really distracting, and open your heart, where it says in this week's Torah portion, God says, if you start coming towards me, I'll circumcise your heart. I'll peel back all those things that are blocking you, so you can access your heart, and your heart will lead you. Your soul will lead you. So I maybe that's how the intuition and the soul, Diane Bloomfield teaches Torah yoga. We're going to be offering another series of Torah yoga with Diane in Jerusalem, but she was talking about how the soul knowledge got integrated on some level into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do yoga, there's a bringing all of your body into the intentionality of the yoga practice that you're doing. And so she couples yoga practice with Torah. So as you move your body, you're aware of your neshama, you're aware of your spine being like different things that she connects to Torah sources. So it's really lovely. I encourage everybody who'd like to try when we offer the next series, you're welcome to come. But to bring it into our bodies. And so what's interesting when we talk about body and going into the mikveh, so again, fast track to where my mind often goes, Chevra Kadisha, the body that goes through the mikveh, that we take this body through a mikveh, because the body is holy, right? It's accumulated by being in direct contact with the soul for however long it's been in contact with its soul, however long we get to live in this world. And the soul infuses the body with holiness. So we have to take care of our bodies. We have to look after our bodies. We have to, practice self-love and self-care and self-compassion, not just with our hearts, but with our bodies. We have to take care of our bodies also. So I think going into the mikveh kind of brings it all together, doesn't it? Because it's everything. It's your soul and your body and the water and the primordial and the amniotic sac, and it's like awesome. What could be better? And you don't have to have anyone look at you. Like when you go in post menstruation, normally there's a mikveh attendant who will, very, respectfully, but she has to see that you go under and that you're completely immersed. But for this dunking pre-Yom Kippur, you can do it on your own. You don't have to have anybody there. And sorry, I'm so happy we're still talking. I'm still talking. The amazing thing is when we do something that's like hitting the nail on the head, right? So I really think that going to the mikveh and having these intentions and wanting to connect to God, like, good, it's really good. And when you do that, when you're connecting to something like that, you can like throw these prayers in, and these prayers have more of an open channel. So it's very traditional at any time when you're in a mikveh, anytime when you're doing a mitzvah, when you light your Shabbat candles, when you're making challah, when you're anything, visiting the sick, whatever, pray, like ask for help, ask for whatever, be grateful, whatever it is. And I think when we use these intentionalities, when we go to the mikveh pre-Yom Kippur, pre-Rosh Hashana, like I imagine that that we could prepare ourselves by thinking about the things that we want to be in the new year. And we can, look, help me be that. Ask God for help. It's a good time to do it. It's a really good time to do it. Like we're giving an auspicious time. You're presented with this opportunity to have an auspicious time to connect. So that's what I've learned. That's what I wanted to share. Right, I think I said everything I wanted to say. So Ellen, if you'd like to come, be in touch with me. You're welcome to email me back, and then we can talk on the phone. And if you want, no pressure. And Barbara, you're also invited, and Ruthie, you're invited because you live near. Joni, I don't think you should come from North Carolina to do it, but maybe you'll do it there. And I already have 6 women signed up, so it's really lovely. It's a nice opportunity, and there's nothing to lose and everything to gain.
So all nail polish would be off, everything. And do you have to do anything to your hair? No.
You brush it, wash it, brush it. No, right. So because of COVID, like these mikvehs, our mikveh is beautiful. Our mikveh in Rhode Island is beautiful. And has a lovely bathtub, and has a lovely shower, and has robes, and it has all like nice toiletries. So now with COVID, so you have to shower before you come. You can't shower there. You have to bring your own towel because we don't want to deal with towels. You know, like we're in COVID. So really, the mikveh experience isn't going to be the whole spa experience. It's going to be, I'll let you in. We'll walk you to the changing room where you'll change. And then if you want to go into the mikveh on your own, you're welcome to. If you want me to come with you, I'm happy to do that too. And then, so you walk into the bathroom through one door, and then the other door on the other side of the room takes you to the area where the mikveh is. Mm-hmm. And then you'll take your towel off. You're completely in your normal, natural state of being. And you go down the 7 steps, right? The 7 steps we talked about. And then you'll be in these lovely, warm, primordial waters that come from the Garden of Eden. And you'll immerse and come out, whatever intentions you have, whatever prayers you want to say, whatever you want to experience. You go into a fetal position, you come out, you breathe, you take that first breath of the new you. You're changing your status, you're changing who you are. And the power of change. You know, I was describing, Ruthie, some of the changes that the mikveh is used, you know, to convert somebody from non-Jew to Jew, to take a bride, you know, from unmarried to single to married, for you know, going from a state of tameh, I'm not using the English word, after menstruation, to tahara, tahor, you know, that you're tahor when you come out. And the priests would use it when they went into the temple. We used it when we were getting ready to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai. Adam sat in the first mikveh in the waters that were coming out of Garden of Eden when he was expelled from the garden. He sat in the waters and cried. And our tears are part of that big cycle of primordial water that is ancient.
So did you say that you have to take off all nail polish?
You do. I mean, the idea is to be as close to this, to the birth you as possible. If you can't get your nail polish off, so you don't get your nail polish off. It doesn't matter. But the idea is to be as pure or as unadulterated or unadorned, or nothing separating you from the waters. You want all of you to be encompassed by the waters, which is why when you do it for a mitzvah, when it's a woman doing it after she's finished her period, there's usually somebody to watch to make sure that all her hair goes under.
So, can I get in touch with you tomorrow?
Absolutely. I would love you to get in touch with me tomorrow.
I will do that, because right now I've been on this computer for 3 hours.
Okay, awesome. Okay, love. Well, it was really lovely. I appreciate you all coming. And it really, I'm here, I'm doing my thing, and I just want to connect people to things that I think are meaningful. I do have a new program that I'm going to do in 2 weeks. We're going to make vision boards for our potential vision for our future. So that's on the 24th of September. It's a Thursday. We're going to make a vision board. So be in touch if you'd like to do that. I think that's going to be really interesting. I have a lovely lady who's lives in Northampton, Mass, who's going to be our facilitator. She's going to lead us through a vision board making process. And lovely. So I wish you a really wonderful rest of your week, and stay in touch. I hope that was useful and helpful and meaningful and good.
Yes, I never thought about going to the mikveh at this time of the year. I mean, never. Yeah, thank you.
You are doing such an enormously fabulous job.
Yes.
All right, I'll see you all. Bye.
All right, ladies. Bye. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So can you stay on the line? Just turn off the recording, maybe?
Do I want to stop recording?